The third patriarch, Jacob, is on his deathbed, and his favorite son, Joseph, visits him with his two sons, Menashe and Ephraim. It is a pivotal moment in the history which dates back to the first patriarch, Abraham, who was born in Ur and then moved to Israel, where he eventually passed away, and was buried in Me'arat HaMachpelah, which is a place he had acquired to bury his wife Sarah. The second patriarch, Yitzchak, was born in Israel and never left the land of Israel, and is buried in the same place together with his wife Rivka. The third patriarch, Jacob, was born in Israel, but spent the last years of his life in Egypt. But he assures that his son Joseph will take his mortal remains to the same place where his ancestors lie, together with his wife Leah. Joseph's case is somewhat similar. He is also born in Israel, but he spends most of his life in Egypt and obtains the promise of his brothers that they will take his remains once they leave Egypt toward Israel. Obviously, Joseph could not demand that he be buried immediately after his death in Israel because of the high office he held in Egypt. It would have been thought as something unpatriotic. Now Joseph appears with his two sons before the dying Jacob, Menashe and Ephraim. They had both been born in Egypt, and Israel was part of the family narrative, but it had not been a personal experience. On his deathbed, Jacob wants to ensure that these grandchildren consider themselves as if they were his own children, that they feel for Israel what the rest of the family feels. Indeed, the large Jewish communities of the diaspora, especially in the United States, do not originate from Israel, which is part of a historical narrative. According to the Midrash, only 1/5 of the Hebrews that lived in Egypt left. The vast majority did not. 80% had assimilated. We see that many Jews today do not feel those emotional ties to Israel. Some are even very critical of the state of Israel. Jacob, in blessing his grandsons, instead of Joseph, was saying that the continuity of the Jewish people lies in the loyalty of the future generations as well, who must be educated in the authentic content of the Jewish tradition. The Nazis of World War II reminded many assimilated Jews in Germany that they were not really Aryan, they weren't Germans. The resurgence of current anti-Semitism may have perhaps some of the same effect, reminding Jews that they are different from the other people that live in the same place because they have a different ancestral tradition. But this is a negative aspect. How much more productive it will be to educate, to transmit moral values from parents to children, from grandparents to grandchildren, about the ethical principles that have guided Judaism since its inception, since its appearance on the sands of history.